Central Division Hockey, the podcast, presents a special pop-up, basically campfire edition of the First Class podcast. Warren Smith with me. I'm Tim Bigelow. And so we're going to talk all things Winnipeg Jets hockey for as long as we take. Thoughts after camp, heading up to what will be close to the final cuts, because I think when we looked at it, I think they still got to make 2 more cuts based on what Cap Friendly is telling me this morning. And we don't know if Harkins is going to get taken off of waivers or not. So we'll dive into that. But the first thing since the team only Jets podcast I did, which Warren will share completely different opinions than I will on this roster coming up this year. It would be the tank. What did I say? The tank near full view from you.
Tank empty, tank full.
Yeah. Because it's a Jet A. And the first thing was they took the wheels off the Jet before the season began and stripped them of the captaincy. Do you have any? I really don't have any thoughts on this. If you watched the Winnipeg Jets last year, you know why he got stripped of the C.
Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty obvious, right? I feel like it was kind of one of those things. It's a different situation, but I mean, somewhat comparable to Andrew Ladd, except there wasn't a guy in the waiting that just, there's guys that kind of look like they could be captains, like Adam Lowry's a guy for me. I mean, maybe even Josh Morrissey, acquired captain, There are guys that could step up and fill that role, but it wasn't as obvious as like when Wheels took over for Ladd. Everybody knew that. Remember that? We just felt the vibe like that was going to be the captain apparent, right? The guy that was going to walk in and fill those shoes. But the leadership group and the way they interacted with Pomo and with his clone after Lowry, you could just see the writing on the wall that he was going to lose the C. You got to start if you're going to bring in a new coach, all the new coaches. You want to start fresh. You kind of, I'm cool with it. It's not shocking,
but to me, and you can agree or disagree, but Wheeler's captaincy was actually de facto from day one, because the real guy that ran the room was Dustin Byfuglien, and he just didn't want to be the captain.
Yeah, Dustin Byfuglien didn't want to do all the post. He hated doing post-game interviews and shit like that, and he hated talking. So he hated the mundane, boring redundancy of the situation. Right, Wheels was more capable. He became that later on. Right, he got sick of that shit like the last couple of years. But yeah, no.
Yeah, but that
the energy. He was the X factor. He was the guy. They were kind of like the yin to the yang, though, right?
Yeah.
Wheels is like Captain Serious, and then Buff was the opposite, the guy that kept everything light in the room,
But I think in the locker room, really, that was until Buff stepped away. You can make an argument that he really was the captain, and all that it was basically Wheeler was wearing the C to do what Buff didn't want to do.
I don't know, man. Wheels to me was like really consistent for a few years there, like very consistent. You knew what to expect from him. Buff, remember years ago when we did the podcast, it was like he just took the first half of the season off straight West Coast. Remember we talked about that shit? And it's like, it feels like such a
because
long time.
He was that good.
He could, and he did, which is slightly annoying, right? Because it's just like he could just dominate if he chose to, and then times he just didn't. It's just that's why it's like I don't know how many guys around the league that are the funny guy on the team that keeps everybody light. How many of them are the captains? Generally speaking, it's like the serious guys, right? So but I do agree. Like when it comes to being in and out of the lineup, which guy affects you more? Fuck, it changed the whole direction of the franchise when Buff left, right? So
yeah, but the whole thing on that too is though that's when Wheeler kind of struggled with his captaincy was after Buff was gone too. If you look at the timeline on it,
I agree. I think we don't know the behind the scenes conversations, but I think the relationship he had with Buff helped Wheeler. Definitely, it helped him do the things he needed to do, to be a leader. And then when he lost Buff, he just didn't have another guy that could be like him and Scheif were tight, but it wasn't the same kind of thing, So yeah, I know the Wheels being stripped situation. I think it needed to happen. If you're going to change the culture, and they're not the first team to do it. There's been fucking shit like, whoops, I don't know if I'm allowed to drop F-bombs on this. My bad. But sorry.
We might end up having it. I don't know if
Is what it is. You know what I mean?
YouTube may not
It's
appreciate it, but
But like, remember Luongo being named the captain, which is weird for the Vancouver Canucks, and like many teams since have done the assistants not picking a captain. The weird time in San Jose when they did the thing with what was it? When they stripped Thornton mid-season, like that was way weirder. So like to do it at the end of the season, there's been more awkward situations than the Wheeler situation, before. I thought it was a little weird that maybe they didn't release this shit like in the off season to wait to like the day before kind of situation. That was kind of weird for me.
it was still the off season. It's the day before training camp started.
Yeah, I know.
It's the ideal time to do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that was well thought out. It's like, here we go. We're going to provide a distraction for why Chevy didn't make any moves. Here's a perfect distraction. You know what I mean? They thought that through. Like, we're just going to wait a little bit.
But also the shelf life of doing it right the day before training camp means that other storylines prop up really fast out of camp, so it doesn't linger. If they do that at the end of the season, then you've got that whole runway, right, where you got to do it. I think the timing of it, I'll never fault the Jets on the timing of this stuff. The other thing is,
I love the way they got ahead of it for sure. I just think it was like literally on the cusp of being too late. It was like the perfect time-ish, maybe a little earlier, but like they did it when they needed to do it, and now it's like, who's going to step forward? Who's going to be that guy, and how much will Wheels continue to lead? So far in the preseason, I've liked his effort level. I mean, he still logo hunts and, offensively, he didn't really show out much. He didn't show up. I remember just, was I texting you or texting my other buddies who were talking about how like Wheels looked like a ghost? He looked like he was kind of a ghost out there, not doing much.
Oh yeah. I'll tell you because I didn't watch all the preseasons. I watched a couple of the last ones purposely because the first week of training camp does not matter anything other than if a guy really stands out. We'll talk about one of the guys that did. However, I just looked at Perfetti and Dubois and being like, man, this dead weight of Wheeler is like, if they had another line mate, that would make a great line. I mean, and the other one was Sam Gagner, who's going to play like fourth line, was better on the first power play unit that one preseason game than Wheeler was on it.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder if it's like the old guard where it's kind of like they feel like it has to run through them. It used to, right? Had to run through Wheels, but it's like they have that fluidity and freedom to like just play their game and all like attack at the same time. It's not just finding open space and just waiting for Wheeler to do everything. So
yeah, but you got to remember though, there's another factor on the time and space that Wheeler had versus what he didn't have last year when it kind of started to have troubles. And it's Patrick Laine's not there. Because you had Laine on one side, you had Kyle Connor on the other side, and Wheeler had all day because they would let Wheeler hold the puck to do the setup because he's the least threat out there on that power play unit. But you took out that one. Now with Ehlers and KC, right? With Fly and KC there, now it's kind of back to that. But it was Gagner who was, cutting through seams and basically creating chaos. Then Wheeler in that stationary spot, that's
the whole
doesn't
thing,
work,
right? It's the interchangeable parts. It's the switching. It's not being so locked in one spot.
But that's Wheeler. That's Wheeler's the guy that's most guilty of that.
Yeah.
Always.
For years he got away with it, actually. If you backed up the tape even farther, the story even farther, it's like you just brought up before about the leadership thing, captain situation. It kind of connects to that. Remember, Big Buff had the booming shot that scared everybody from the point. He missed the net half the time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But having him, and then when at the time they had Buff and then they had Laine for a short period of time, right? So you had the big shot on both sides. So that provided so much more space on the ice. You take away Buff, then you take away Laine. I mean, your world shrinks pretty quick, right?
Well, because then teams will key and cheat on it. That's the one thing. Like I think in Nashville and Ellie Tovalin 2 years ago, half his goals of that kid were on the power play. Teams were cheating to Philip Forsberg on his side that entire year. That's why Tovalin had good power play goal numbers. He'd be left wide open, and the kid had a great shot. And you have Laine and you had Kyle Connor on opposite ends on that trifecta with Scheifele kind of, adjustable in it. Yeah, Wheeler was given time and space because they didn't want Line having it. They don't want KC having it.
You know that look off pass by Gagne, the second one, that's not the one talked about, the one that Wheeler sniped where he had all the time. That was dirty, man. Like, you know what's weird?
Blake Wheeler ain't doing that. Blake Wheeler isn't doing that play, man. I'd rather
he isn't looking at the back point for Ehlers on that play. He's still looking around the ice trying to find Scheif, see where he's at. You know what I mean? That's just reality.
Yeah.
But
look, Wheeler was 2 to 3 to 1 assists in his career in the good years. Like he put up some numbers in his drop off. There's a real drop off, man. That 2 minutes of his 5-on-5 time on ice needed to really happen, and get him off the special teams. There are better players on this Jets 100%. Team. Like
now and then you can roll out on the PK. I'm okay with that. You just can't touch the power play. Like at this point in his career, with the dynamic players the Jets have, like guys like deep behind him on the depth, that farther down the line right now, and guys like, let's say, that are going to be playing on the Moose that probably should still be up with the Jets, should be on that power play over Blake Wheeler. I'm cool with him 5-on-5 rolling out on that third line with Appleton and Laus. That's a good spot for him. Block some shots.
That's not happening.
Get in there. He threw a few uppercuts, protecting his teammates, being a good teammate like that. Character guy on the bench. He's getting paid way too much to be that role, but I mean, it is what it is. But
it's Zach Parise like in Minnesota, where 1 year he basically had his last year as a top 6 player, and then he was relegated to the 4th line because the drop off was that real. They did the buyout. It was a good decision. Yeah. And I got all day for Zach Parise, who has a chip, like he's won a cup, but when I look at it, I look at Wheeler and I'm the same thing.
Sometimes it's as clear as day, right?
Like it should be Morgan Barron with Laus and Appleton on the 3rd line.
Yeah.
Like Blake Wheeler's the 4th line right winger if we have another top 6 right winger.
Remember last year? We're messaging at the end. I was like, I'm watching this kid, man. He like literally dominates. Like, I know it's the AHL, but like he's just shaking guys off his check, dominating, just making plays. The way it sounds when it hits the back when he missed the net, and just like how hard his shot was. Like, this guy's got offense. He can skate for a big dude. Like, he 100% should be on the 3rd line with Appleton. That's a nice line,
Yeah.
Wheels should be on the 4th line.
Yeah. And then at his salary, if you can't trade him, trade an asset and trade him. Yeah. Buy out. You buy it out. You eat it.
Yeah. We're in agreement.
And there's one top 6 spot that basically that's the spot he's taking. There isn't, my argument was there's nobody else to really play up in that spot, but yet at this point, it's very clear he should not be there. Like, you look at
either one of those guys getting a shot. Appleton's a right-handed shot, so that'd be cool with Appleton rolling up there, having an opportunity. We talked about that. I know you like Apples too. He's a good player. Yeah. Didn't do much last year, but the team is on his junk.
But you okay? So instead of Apples playing with Lowry, you throw him up there with Dubois and Perfetti, and you tell me he's not going to put up some numbers because he did the 1 year in the A.
Yeah.
He did.
Remember he played with like KC?
Yeah.
When he got a shot a couple times in the top 6, like when there was injuries a couple years ago, and he was unreal. He did what Harkins did and then some.
See, my argument was I wanted to put Apples with KC and roll Scheifele or Dubois between them. I didn't even care who played center, but I actually thought it would be nice to have Dubois between Apples and KC, and then run my second line would have been Scheifele with Perfetti and Ehlers.
That's the combos, however you slice it. They just the end equation is Wheels isn't in there.
Yeah.
Like, he isn't your top 6. You could put Barron, who hasn't been as proven as Appleton. I'd say he's a little bit more he's been in the league longer, but he has that upside. From what he's seen, he's just been hard on the forecheck, big body. Like, I like him with Laus. That's a beast line. I like the men aligning with him. Those 3 guys, they're all like 6'4", 6'5", 210, 220, 230. I don't know, right around there. They're big boys. They can all skate. That's a beast shutdown line. So, but then Apple's, he's in the, just Wheels is the fucking most problematic situation in the world.
Yeah. So we get that, but like we'll talk about it. I guess we're going to talk about the forwards first, man. I guess that's what's going down here.
We should mention again, you told me about Harkins. I hadn't heard the word yet, just in, and the factor sadness with the Blue Jays. And I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, but okay. So wrap up the top six, because I'm sure you like KC, Scheifele, and Ehlers right now, right?
Yeah. I've been wanting that for a couple of years, so I'm excited to see that play out.
Yeah. So that's a good sign. Then, like I said, you've got Perfetti Dubois, and you've got somebody who's not top six value.
Perfetti Dubois and X.
Yeah.
Not
and there's not a Jets fan that wouldn't agree with you on that exact assessment.
I don't think I'm breaking like just crazy news here. That is obvious. You can see it. It's crazy. You can see, like we talked about, it just stood out, the players that didn't belong, like they didn't play well.
Yeah.
Wheels does not look like he should be on the top six. He doesn't skate as well. He's slower. The few times he had a chance, he did logo hunt. Classic. And then you could see the difference when Brad Lambert was out with them on the power play, that unbelievable tic-tac-toe.
So the consensus on it, and that was it. Saku, Menelainen looked good with Lowry and Appleton, but Barron looked just as good in action in that spot.
Kind of doppelgangers, like surprisingly, they look very similar the way they play. So like now one of them is on the third line, one of them's on the fourth line.
And you want to talk about Harkins, who may clear waivers. Technically, I don't think it's officially. I keep trying to update Twitter to see if any news on him getting picked up. I think he clears. I think he's going to the A. But Menelainen basically took his spot on the roster.
Well, he earned it though, right? He was a beast on forecheck. He showed some offensive skill with that slick toe drag and a couple other plays. He went hard to the net, and he's a big boy. On the cycle with Lowry, they were strong. That's what you want your third line or fourth line doing. You want them to be able to handle the half wall, leaving the zone, win battles for you, win puck battles, strong cycle, and he gives you that.
But they need production from that third line. But you know what though? The same thing is Bones being the coach, and that's, by the way, that's Rick Bonus's nickname. Remember, I've covered this team actually the entire time Rick Bonus was coaching Dallas, because I was covering the team before when Montgomery had his incident, actually in Winnipeg of all places, and was relieved of his duties and went into the treatment program, and now he's coaching in the Eastern Conference as a head coach. But so Rick Bonus, a guy like Radek Faksa, they had a shutdown line in Dallas where, and actually when they started, it was kind of Como, Faksa, I want to say another, and I can't remember who the third part of it was, but they kind of had a de facto but they do need more offense out of that. I think Barron more than Menelainen gives them more offense out of that. But if
he's pretty electric, man, like he can snipe like legit. So, and
I said, I still think Appleton has the potential to be able to get more. And you know what? Lowry's game is so complete now. Like, I'm not worried. I'm not worried about that. And the fourth line, then you kind of, I want to say Christian Reichel, ending up getting injured was kind of a bad part of that, because I really had him. Kevin Stenlund, who had time in the NHL, is now cleared waivers. He's going to start with the Moose. But there's a guy that had some NHL games that couldn't make this lineup. Tondanano and Gustafson to me were kind of comparable.
Tondanano actually to me had a really positive he had a positive preseason. Like he was a good player for them. He played well. He had that nice goal coming out of the box, but just did a lot of things well. He surprised me how because I was thinking he was on the bubble. I was thinking there was a chance that even he, with his experience in the league and everything, I wasn't sure. He wasn't a lock to me. And I think he earned his spot. Just like, I would say, well, we're not moving on to the D, but that's how I feel about DeBello as well. I feel like both those two guys were guys that to me in my head were bubble players that could be replaced by younger players, but they both proved that they were the right guys for the job. You know, stick
Gagne's
around.
a good pickup. I think Gagne's an excellent pickup. I'm surprised. Of
I'll tell you
course,
straight,
what? But
straight
what?
honest, man. I was hating when I'm watching Gagne on 5-on-5. I was like, man, he's slow. Like he can't move. That's always been the knock on Gagne. He's never been a skater. He always could put up production, has great hands, but it's like, can he keep up with this team? Like he's like his feet are in quicksand. And then I literally just texted that my buddies Dan and Devin. I messaged them. I literally just said like, man, this guy's so slow. And then sweet little slick play with Casey. I was like, I'll shut my mouth right here. I can live with that. If he's not doing shit on the 5-on-5, but he's might roll in the power play and set up guys like that.
But he's playing fourth line. He's going to play
Yeah.
fourth line minutes.
Yeah.
But he brings special teams.
Yeah, he might be an okay guy. You know, like so far, you know, you say not much. The preseason doesn't matter, but like those small window passes.
Well, come on, do the laundry list. Do the laundry list of this guy is the best attempt at a fourth line because he actually played top six in his prime, versus like this isn't the second coming of Mark Letestu, who was the second coming of. Do you know what I mean? Like those guys had no value.
Yeah, it's kind of what we always talk about. A lot of the chip teams or best teams have guys on their bottom six, like you just said, that used to be top six players. And he played for Detroit last year, right? And he was, I thought when I saw him in small sample size, he was pretty decent when I watched the games because my buddy's a big Red
Yeah,
Wings
but
fan.
Detroit was such a weird team with all the youth that they have in that lineup. You could watch them and they'd look great, and then they'd end up giving up. Like they had that one game where it was like, I don't know, it was a football score. It was like with Toronto where it was like 11-10 or something by the time the thing ended. It was like 7-6 after the second period. It was just it's like river hockey, like beauty league in the summer, but an actual regular season game. I actually watched the rest of that game, and it's like if they had any defense, but they're fun to watch. Oh yeah, because you know Dylan Larkin, they've got guys, the young guys. They're basically one of their guys is going to win Rookie of the Year. Yeah,
What's his name?
yeah. Well, he won Rookie of the Year.
I'm not blanking.
Oh, I'm drawing a blank too.
He's unreal. Yeah.
Cider. Morris
Yeah,
Cider. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've got guys. Like they've got guys on that team, but they didn't have.
It was just the fact that like he accepted a bottom six role, a top six guy. He's done it already. It's not like we're moving him from a top six and then you have to play bottom six, kind of like wheel situation.
Yeah.
He's done it already. He's fine with it, and like to give him that little bit of power play time, I'm sure he's loving that. Like get a chance to Casey and Ehlers, and yeah, it could be a good fit. Like you said, like I thought the same thing's funny. Great minds think alike about the comparison to Matty Perot, Frenchie.
Yeah.
You know, the only thing to me is he doesn't have the same kind of forecheck that Matty Perot did that I've seen so far. But the way he can slip into that like power play unit when you need it, and he has a good hands for a guy that's on the bottom six.
Yeah. And that's all you need because they're going to have low minutes on that line. They're really going to run that 10 minutes.
He may not be there like every night. He might be a guy that you just insert here and there, like when they're struggling. Say one of the units is struggling, you might just throw Gagne on the unit and take a guy off if they're not doing well. Who knows? We'll see, I guess. But
yeah, we'll
start him. That'll be interesting. Will they start him on the first power play unit because of how successful they were, or will they just go back to like what is expected kind of thing? Will they just put wheels out with them just because kind of thing?
But then the question, short of an injury, right? That we got to ask ourselves is like on the depth chart, like they got to drop another forward off this. One of these guys
Who's left? I'm like I don't have any sheets in front of me. I don't have my phone. Who's left that is potential cut?
Oh, maybe Cap Friendly's got it. Maybe they did do the update here before we got on here. Have I got?
Shouldn't be wearing this.
Cap Friendly right now is Gus, Gagne, and Tondonato as the fourth line. The third line exactly as we said. The second line exactly like we said, and the first line exactly like we said. And
you think Gus, Gagne, Tondonato?
And then
where's Menelainen?
Menelainen would be the healthy scratch.
I don't know about that.
And yeah, like basically that's everybody. That's enough forwards. And keeping
That's good, man. That's some pretty good depth. If you have to take Toninato out and put Mendeline in him, that's nice,
and Eric Comrie's now in Buffalo on a 1.8 million per, because Winnipeg couldn't spend $900K more on the backup goalie. So they get Big Siv. Dave?
Shutty, man, Shutty.
Preseason doesn't matter. Repeat after me. Preseason doesn't matter. 900K. That's the difference, though.
You got an apple, dude. You got an apple. Winging it up the ice. Transition. Hell, he doesn't get apples. He doesn't get up the ice for apples. Basically, with that apple and the Shutty, he's essentially pushing Helly out of the spot.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
which if he played, that's the knock on him. He's supposed to play a lot of minutes to be better in the crease. And he struggled behind UC Saros in Nashville because he didn't play enough.
Well, that's a concern then, obviously.
And then signs with the team.
Like Connery is used to not playing as many minutes, and he's growing in through practice, and he was hungry, right? As an older guy, yeah, it might be harder to.
So you complain about the number of games played behind UC Saros, who was peripherally near Vezina conversation and has been over the last couple of years. Not quite, but he's right on the cusp of that. And then you go to Winnipeg, who has Connor Hellebuck, and Hellebuck's going to play just as many, if not more games than Saros does in a regular season. So my concern is that Riddick basically is walking into another situation where there's going to be times where he's just not playing, and he has to be ready for when he is. Nashville played Riddick when Saros got hurt. Game 1 against Colorado, it was 6-0. Pretty much after 2 periods, they were out like in the first period just because Riddick couldn't make a save, and they played Connor Ingram, their top prospect, young 20-something-year-old, the rest of the series. Now, they didn't win, but they sure were more competitive. Riddick never even got back in the net.
Yeah. That's not
so this is the same situation. So how are they going to have different results?
Fresh start though, man, right? The whole team, it's all about fresh start, new beginnings, and resetting, and hopefully the dynamics of the team,
It's like you just know that he had that one good year where he kind of stole the starter job in Calgary. That's what you remember. And that's so many years removed now, it's irrelevant.
Yeah, but I'm not that concerned because I feel like Helly's going to have a really good bounce back year. I was really hard on him last year, but I'm pumped to watch him play. I know, again, it's a preseason, but he looked so positionally sound. He made some really athletic saves. He looked locked in. Like for preseason, there was no coasting by Helly. He was locked.
Yeah. So, but if you take those games,
react when Calgary's running him and shit. Like what's Calgary's deal now? Did you notice how many times, like 4 or 5 times, they unnecessarily ran into Helly, accidentally running him over, borderline almost injured him a couple times. And Helly kept his cool. Usually Helly has a little hot streak, where he wants to blocker guys in the head and stuff. But he was
but that's a Sutter coach team that just got shut out.
Yeah, I know.
In Winnipeg.
In
Winnipeg, and Sutter didn't like what didn't he like? The effort. They're back at home. He went
off on them, eh? And he went off on them in the post game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they get their final game at home, and Winnipeg's still beating them after a really good second period. And that's when the shenanigans was happening.
Yeah.
Because if they don't, Sutter's not happy. They should be winning their last game at home when they're the quote unquote expected team to win the Pacific Division, or you're picking Edmonton. But a lot of people are picking Calgary.
Yeah, well, Winnipeg was punking them hard with this, with our speed and our skill, and opportunistic as well. Not just shooting.
Preseason. It's preseason.
But those lineups were very close to what the lineups are going to be, minus a couple players. We smoked them with Dubois without Wheels. Wheels maybe whatever, but no Dubois. PLD was great the last couple games. Yeah.
That's addition by subtraction.
I knew you missed that. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah.
So you know what, like, and the other part of that too is that you kind of want to talk, like as it was talking about it. Yeah, if Ellie has his,
Not to cut you off for a second. Remember that Huberto play? I got to sometimes give props to the other team. How dirty was that spinorama pass?
oh yeah. I almost went on to Twitter. I wanted to go onto Twitter and be like, yeah, you know what? Josh Morrissey's cut. Because that was on my boy. No, of course, that's not true. You know I'm not having him cut.
Morrissey, man. I know you love
him. But the hell play, man. But if I just straight put that up there, people would have gone off on me. But he undressed J-Mo to set that up. It was beautiful.
Yeah. He's been really underrated. He finally got a little love last year. I thought for the last few years he's been really underrated.
So while we wrap up the goaltending, we want to talk about, of course, who would have been most likely a guy that had to clear waivers that would have likely started with the Moose if he did, and that would have been Mikhail Burden. Winnipeg doesn't have to put him through waivers because on the advice and recommendation of the NHLPA Substance Abuse and Behavioral Health Program, legit words, Mikhail Burden was basically allowed to be loaned with the NHL's permission to go back home to play this year. So that saved Winnipeg potentially losing him through waivers because he wasn't waiver exempt. It brings, I believe, Arvid Holm would be the next guy up on the depth chart after David Riddick. The questions I want to ask you is like, I don't even have that as good a record as Comrie did. I almost think there's 5 games right there that Winnipeg doesn't win because of Riddick in that instead of Comrie.
How old is Riddick?
What's that?
How old is Riddick?
29.
29. So, his best years, he could be just hitting his prime, though. Big save Dave, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like I said earlier. He had that one big year with Calgary where he got the starter's crease. He couldn't maintain it. He's bounced around through several teams now. And when he's not playing, he's not consistently that good of a goalie.
I think the Jets are going to be a way better team in front of them. I'm pumped. I had that glass half full mentality of what I see. So I feel like he's not enough. I think we're going to have enough offense to make up for maybe the odd bad goal that goes in this year. I think the way they're playing the game is substantially different, way harder on the forecheck. Breakout is way faster, way more crisp, D jumping up in the play. And Riddick, the game he got a shutty, they cleared out the front of the net. There was no shenanigans, rebounds really, but I'm not really concerned about that. Now that you mentioned the thing about Burden, I care more about that. Like, I like going to Moose games. You go to watch Burden, you're going to watch a show, man. That guy is trying to score goals. He is blockering people in the head. He's a hilarious goalie to watch. Plus, he's really he lets out bad rebounds sometimes, but crazy athletic. So I'm going to miss watching him at the Moose. So to me, that's the more interesting, to be honest. Riddick, I think he'll be fine. He's not going to get a lot of games. Let's be serious. Helly's going to own that crease. He's going to have bounce back year. He's going to play a lot of games. Helly does not like sitting out games. We'll see how Bonus runs it. And
I just don't know how Riddick can do that in low games because that's when he struggles most. That was the knock when he was in Nashville last year. Anyways, that's one concern for me as a backup goaltending. And I'm just cheesed that Winnipeg didn't have an extra $900K to just bring Comrie back.
Yeah. Really good team guy, too. Everybody loved Comrie, it seems like.
Yeah. And Hellebuyck liked him as his backup. And he was supportive in that role.
Yeah.
And he knew the role. It just, I have no idea. No idea.
Well, we'll see, I guess. Yeah.
So if we talk about the defense, and I guess we were talking about it, DeMello is back with J-Mo.
Yep.
Which is the best of what they can do with bringing back the entire D core except for Nate Beaulieu. But then they ended up getting Kyle Capio Bianco, who I watched in Arizona. and I don't think he's a bad defenseman. I haven't really seen him get to play in camp or anything.
He looked all right. He's okay.
Yeah,
He didn't.
he can play. He can play bottom pair in the National Hockey League. I'll put it to you that way.
Yeah.
Better.
Doesn't get you excited like Nola does. That's for sure.
Well, better injury replacement value than Nathan Beaulieu. How about that?
Sure.
Okay. But now you say that, so then have they really gone with Dylan Pionk? Are we thinking of that as a second pair again this year? Or are they still going to try and throw one of the three that we'll talk about, spend all the time talking about?
Where's Schmidt at then? Is he in the bottom pairing?
Yeah, well, Schmidt then would be on the bottom pairing with
X.
Yeah, with X.
Most likely.
Yeah.
Maybe. The edge. Because Stanley is a fucking plug. And I
guess Dylan.
I can't have it in my life, man. Like he's had so many bad turnovers, man. In preseason, he's fumbling the puck against bargain bin players. And he doesn't play that fast pace, man. He's got to go.
It'd be bottom pairing. You could have Dylan with Schmidt as a bottom pairing, which is absurd that you would have.
At the money wise, that's crazy bottom pairing for how much they're getting paid. They'll be the highest paid bottom pairing in the league.
No,
right?
No, they won't be.
There's another pair that's higher paid. Where? What team?
Colorado.
How much are they? What's the gap difference? Because like Schmidt's making like 5+, right? 5 point something,
Yeah.
0.2.
Okay, so this guy Eric Johnson makes 6.
6?
Yeah.
On the bottom pair?
Well, yeah, this year because he's going to get paired with Sam Girard. That's their bottom pairing. All healthy.
How much is he making?
5. That's an 11 million bottom pair.
Jesus.
Yeah. And that's because
I do like Dylan.
But that's because Colorado's top pair is Makar and Taves, and then Josh Manson with Bowen Byram, which is less cost combined than Johnson alone, is the second pairing. And legit, that's the way they're going to run it.
You know what I think the consideration will be too, as far as how they do those the mid pairing and the bottom pairing is. Are you going to run Hanola on his strong side or his weak side? If he's the guy you choose, and so that'll dictate. You know, if they're running him on his strong side, which would be the right side, right? Then they'll have Dylan on the left, right? But then if Schmidt's playing, Schmidt can play either or. But do you want Schmidt?
Here's the deal.
Strong side with Pionk, you know.
But Pionk's playing top 4.
Yeah, okay. I like Dylan. Personally, I like Dylan getting more minutes with Pionk. He's a big body, strong guy. I love the way Pionk.
He's a poor man, right-hand defenseman, top pair.
Mm-hmm.
He won't, as I have argued, be the guy that allows J-Mo to pop.
No, I think he also has more of a offensive-minded approach. He's got the spinoramas, the dirty spinoramas, and he's got the wheels, and he's looking to jump up there. I think that his style of play will fit what Bones is trying to do very well. And if you put him with a lockdown defender, I think both those pairings make more sense. DeMello knows his role. When he's playing with JMO, he's going to stay back a little bit more. You know, he's got a couple points at the end of the preseason and shit, you know. He knows his role. He's not going out there to snipe goals and jump up and try to be that guy.
It was 2 years into being in Winnipeg to score his first goal.
Yeah. He's not a big point. You know?
Yeah.
But
no, they still needed to upgrade that top pair. Nate Schmidt should have been the guy with JMO. It doesn't work. But it doesn't work. Neil Pionk and JMO doesn't really work. And then we get stuck with DeMello. Exact same retired retread that we had. So, yeah, basically I would think that from what I've heard, Schmidt and Dylan would be third pairing because Pionk's going to play top 4. And then it's that battle between Sandberg, Stanley, and Enola, although Capio Bianco has actually not been cut.
I'll say that if that is how things shake out, you're saying our bottom 6 is going to be like Colorado's, the high-paid bottom guys with Schmidt and Dylan, then my money's on Sandberg, man, because Sandberg is a big body guy. He's He's stronger down low, wins more battles. Looked pretty good in the preseason. So my money's on Sandberg getting that spot to play alongside Pionk. That's pretty nice. You know?
But then, do you not? And this is my argument. At that point, if Sandberg beats out Hanola, which is I'm down with that. Okay, I don't think Hanola's done enough. I think he still needs to skate out of his zone on exits, not do passes up the zone. He really needs to watch Sam Girard and how Sam Girard manages as a smaller player to play in the National Hockey League. Girard just gets back there, gets the puck, and he's outside his own blue line 5 seconds later, and he doesn't have to worry about passing it out or the forward
Bones
being in the right spot.
Remember, Bones did mention the fact that there is a little bit of responsibility that has to be put on the forwards to come back into play, and you can't be straight West Coasting when you're coming back to break out of the zone either. So that definitely affected him too. He had that one whiff where he had a terrible turnover, but then later on in the game he made a play.
There were more. I think we've got rose-colored glasses on when it comes to Ville Heinola. I think the Winnipeg Jets fans do. I don't think they can objectively look at Heinola and see that he's not quite ready defensively. That's it. Look, all the upside on it. And we talked about this 11-7. If you could shelter them.
If they do 11-7, then you can, right?
But just like Pomo, Bones likes a 12-6 set. He likes running 4 lines. Absolutely on the record in Dallas saying that exact wording. I like 12-6. I don't like dressing 7.
But we'll see, right? People, sometimes they'll change a little bit depending on their lineup. The lineup he had in Dallas was not nearly as dynamic as the one he has in Winnipeg, and he didn't have Ville Heinola waiting in the wings potentially to come in and be that 7th guy.
But that 7th guy and using Heinola with that situation would be good. And you could theoretically keep 1 forward and carry 2D, or I don't know, you can put Stanley on waivers.
I think he's a good matchup guys too, right? If you're playing a Montreal, a smaller team, maybe you have Nola in the lineup. And on bigger teams, you have Sandberg in the lineup, that kind of thing too. You could play around with that a little bit. Yeah. And see how they show up.
You can do that, but you want these guys playing every day. This is a problem. If Heinola makes this team, he has to play.
Yeah, I know, and that is the thing, man. I'm telling you, gone to enough Moose games, watched enough of them, have buddies that go all the time, talk about him. He stands out every time. It's he's that in-between stage where it's you have to decide, are you going to go all in with him and accept some of his mistakes, learn on the fly, and go with him and have those teachable moments, and you have to accept some of the bad to get the good. Are you willing to do that at this point? Because you got to make a decision on it. Otherwise, he's going to be a Sam Unique, which I think he's substantially better than Sam Unique. But I think the Moose, when you watch him play, he's just head and shoulders above them, just like Gus, just like Barron. When you watch them play, they're way better than everyone.
There's still and the thing on it too, though, is that you've got 9 defensemen. Most teams carry 7. Winnipeg's at the point where to get this down, they've got to move a defenseman out of this group, minimally 1.
This new acquiring this left winger situation, this new guy, that's a wrinkle that's not necessary. And now 1 less spot. I don't know, man. I don't know how this is going to shake out. It was complicated enough before they added some rental.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that waiver wire pickup. But as far as we go on this stuff, when you're looking at the defense, I thought they just had to cut 1 more defenseman, and then I kind of looked at it and said, okay, well, are they going to go with putting Capio Bianco through waivers? Probably clears, right. But the other thing on it is that there's still 1 extra D, and that's before they added this player. So now we're back up to 3 cuts.
Can they cut Stanley?
No.
Is that an option? Could you just cut him, put him on waivers?
Yeah.
That's an option?
Yeah, he could get picked off of waivers, but it's an option.
Does he have his 2-way? Is he able to go to the Moose? No. So
that was the whole point. That's why
Stanley, we're just done with Stanley.
That's why they had to clear roster spots for these guys. The only one that's waiver exempt is Heinola, which means as much as Winnipeg fans, he goes down.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
just the easiest move to make by far.
Yeah.
But then the decision is, are you going to roll Stan the last few years? This fucking Bambi character, man, who had his moment in the sun in the playoffs a few years back. But let's be serious, he does not fit the style they're trying to play, and his ceiling doesn't seem that high. He's a big guy. He takes dumbass penalties all the time, like even in the preseason. He just doesn't think the game sometimes the right way, and too many turnovers. I don't see it, man. Like I don't know how. I wouldn't say I'm a Stanley hater.
Well, you know what? I was trying to think of a team that was a slower team where he would fit in and be a good fit. And I don't know. Not even in our division do I think there's a team really. I mean, he'd probably help Chicago because they literally have no D. But
He doesn't have a big shot. You know what I mean? He's a big guy, but he doesn't really crush people.
he was
You know,
a bit telegraphed on. He tried to be a bit more physical, I thought, in camp. But his attributes, he's just too slow for this Jets team.
Yeah, and I feel like when he does get aggressive, sometimes it's in the wrong spots. When the play's over, he'll try to do a little extra, try to be that tough guy. But like during the actual play, stepping up and crushing guys, hitting guys in spots where you're separating them from the puck and turning the puck over. That's what you need. You don't need the after the whistle things 24/7. You want a guy that'll stick up for people, but I think they have enough guys that will do it as a team. You know, they can stick up for each other. I'm not sure you need a big guy like that on the back end. He's not going to be the guy that's the tough guy on the team, really. He's not going out there scrapping every 3 or 4 nights and fighting the other guy's tough guy and changing the momentum or something. You know what I mean? So, like, maybe that's not necessary. Maybe for this team, we're more of a skilled team, a puck-moving team, and he needs a guy. Sandberg, that's why he's the fit now. He's smoother, and his upside's greater.
I think he's got the size, but he's got more skill than Stanley.
100%, man.
Yeah.
He had a couple of really subtle moves. I don't know if you were watching. I can't remember which game it was, to be honest, I'm blanking.
But here's the thing.
Moves off the boards that were just like subtle moves where he was just really strong on the puck and just quick outs out of the zone. Like, I don't know. He thinks the game.
If you want Hanola in the lineup, what you did is you moved on from Nate Schmidt to free that spot up.
Yeah.
That's
what you do.
That's what you do.
Yeah. But that's not happening.
Yeah, but that's the move. Alrighty. The Jets also lost Johnny Kovacevic. Right shot, left hand, right hand East. 25 years old. Montreal claimed him on waivers, so he was lost. So do you think they're going to be confident putting any of the other guys on waivers? Other than, somebody picks up Stanley, but saves Winnipeg from it. Are they going to make a move? They got too many guys, and Stanley has not been good enough to make this roster.
He's had a terrible preseason. He's been the worst. I'd say the worst. The worst player on there.
So even with Billy, even if Billy goes down because he's exempt, so Jets don't lose him, there still has to be really one more guy. So it's either Stanley or Capio Bianco. They probably both clear, but maybe some other team takes a flyer on them. They're on the cusp of injury replacement value NHL defensemen, and both the same age, about to enter prime years.
Yeah.
They're a year away from being 25 each, but they're basically maxed at bottom pair value for 2 to 3 years left, and then they won't be. Then they.
To be honest, I just don't care. When it comes to them, it's just let's move on. Let's move forward. Let's figure out if Schmidt going to stick around for a while or what. He had a good preseason, actually. He looked nice. In the games I've seen him play, he's playing very well for the most part.
Well, this style now, he's bought into it. This has probably got a little more flair to it than, I don't want to say Dallas had that with the jumping up of the D, but it also reminds me of Vegas when they were running around when Schmidt was in Vegas.
Remember doing that stuff. I was talking to you earlier, not online here. I was talking to you about the sweet play by Lambert, where Schmidt jumped up into the slot, found that soft spot, and then got the shot, almost sniped it from the slot. He didn't score, but it was a sweet play. Mm-hmm. He had a few looks like that early, like in the preseason, where he just
But
was making good reads.
but also if he's with Dylan, if that's the theory on it,
Yeah.
then he's got the ability to jump in. And the other thing I would say, if they go with that set, there's not really any of those D pairings that really, they should spread it out. Like
I was just thinking that you
all
could balance
three,
that out,
yeah.
especially if you want to.
So you're going to run the 6. It's decent. It's just not outstanding. There isn't a top pair right-hand defenseman. Sorry, Dylan DeMello, you're not.
I just think Morrissey's going to have the breakout season. I just think he was unbelievable. The way his game changed last season, the steps he's taken, I think he's going to take one step.
But he's always since like Buff and Trouba are gone, had to basically carry whoever plays with him.
Yeah.
I still think with DeMello, he still has to do that. And I don't care. People love DeMello. I know that.
I'm comfortable with him, man. I'm comfortable with him. Like being with, I'd like to have a more impactful right-handed defenseman in that spot, but I'm comfortable with him. I'm just ready to watch JMO do the thing on the power play. And
well, it works out. But I do like Sandberg better with Pionk. That's my choice. And I don't think Billy did enough. And unless you're going to go 7 and let him do special teams and shelter his minutes and play him, against the run and gun teams, play him against the Colorados, not the heavy teams, but don't have him play against St. Louis. And you know what I mean? And Philadelphia, maybe not a good idea. But you know what? Like there'd be times on it, but his development, he should be all situations playing with the Moose. You bring him up in injury replacement, but really injury replacement for if Pionk or Schmidt, one of the puck moving guys, goes down.
Yeah.
Like that's what you do with it. Like that's my honest opinion on it. Now, like take it for what it's worth. There's too many D. This group, well, Chevy all day off. Like basically didn't make a roster spot for all these D. Winnipeg's already lost one to the waivers and potentially one more. Although at this point, nobody's sad to see Stanley go, and nobody watched Capio Bianco play because nobody watches Arizona. I might be the only one outside of Arizona itself that actually watches that team play.
He only got a really small sample size. He looked like a decent player, but I mean, when you got to pick between the other guys,
Look, he's a capable bottom pairing NHL defenseman. Like honestly, I take Capio Bianco over Nathan Beaulieu over the last couple of years, having watched both of them. Yeah, well, Beaulieu's playing. He's still in the league.
Really?
Yeah, he signed a deal with whoever he had his PTO with. Anaheim. He made it. Yeah, he did a PTO, and made the team. Signed a deal.
You didn't get waived?
No.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Good for him. I like Beaulieu. I mean, he's not very good, but I like his toughness and his attitude. He's a good team player,
but this organization or somebody in this organization really, they'll give Stanley like 5,000 lives. So it might be Capio Bianco getting sent down and Stanley as a 7th defenseman with Sandberg hopefully playing.
He'll be the guy in the press box.
Yeah. But at 24, you're like, the argument is like, okay, Stanley probably should play every day as well, but he has to do it in the minors. But the same could be said of Capio Bianco. Like one of those guys is a logical press box guy while you let Sandberg play every day because he's a year younger and it's he's still in development.
You're about to say his name properly. Capo there. Like if he's going to go play for the Moose, does that help the team? Is he the kind of player when I look at him, he's not a big guy, right? What's his size? Is he that big? He's not very big.
But he suits that puck movement game better.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's like what you want. Do you want to have a guy comes in and plays like a big body like Stanley to play against the bigger teams, or you want a guy that transitions into the team and plays the same style? Yeah.
Look, bottom bottom pair injury replacement, Capio Bianco is a safer choice than having Logan Stanley on the ice.
Oh yeah, I want Stanley.
Period. Period. Like, that's it.
Garbage. So, yeah.
All right. So you want to Brad Lambert some love?
I mean, it's not enough time, man. The kid is so dynamic and so sick. Everybody's wowed, obviously, by the overtime play. That was unbelievable. The confidence to try to pull that move off. And then he did. He undressed the dude and almost sniped it for the OT winner. Sick move in the shootout, didn't score. But, like, just I remember watching it. I was watching with a buddy and just, like, every 2 seconds getting up, I was rewinding the TV to watch the play. I was like, was that Lambert? Was that Lambert? Yep. Multiple times. His patience with the puck, his ability to pass. To be honest, we like heard of him as more of a sniper. Didn't realize he had that playmaking ability. And the way he was, I knew he was fast, but his handle, the way he was breaking ankles and dangling, controlling the play. Obviously, the tic-tac-toe goal that never counted was pretty epic and exciting to watch. He had the puck in the slot, hesitated, waited, made the guy fake the guy out, gave it to Perfetti. Perfetti one touches over the Bois. Like, who didn't want to see those guys play together? I was so disappointed that they didn't get a game together or 2 games together. I would understand why we would play the last game, but he only played 1 or 2 shifts, 1 shift maybe after, because Wheels is in the box for 5 minutes, right? There's some rough housing that happened after the whistle. Wheeler gave a guy an uppercut and he's in the box. That's the only reason that he got the time on the power play with them and was unbelievable. You know, it would have been nice to see that a little more. I also liked, I told you before, we talked about how he back-checked really hard. His speed can be a difference maker getting back into play, that he doesn't quit on plays. When he had a brutal turnover in his own end, people would just be like, oh, that's a rookie mistake. That's why he has to go down to the boost. But, like, the effort level that he had coming back, he dove head first like Superman style and poked the puck. And he didn't get it fully, but he got enough of it that it affected the play. It's like he could have just, like, hung his head on the turnover and they have a backdoor tap. I didn't see that, you know, and I didn't see him getting beat up on the boards. I didn't see him panicking on plays. I saw him make nice little chip off the board, chip off the glass plays to get the puck out when it was necessary. It wasn't all flash and dash. I feel like his IQ's there. And just, like, his ability to play on a line with Perfetti, you know, hit the speed element that he'd add to that line, just in my head, I was just getting so excited. I know everybody's like, well, it's a hype train. It's like, but it's just a lot of the little small IQ plays that he made that I really liked. He's young though, right? He's 19 years old. So, and he has
18.
options. So
18.
Like,
yeah.
Crazy. We got him 30th overall. Like, that is mind blowing, man. Like, he was top 3 ranked for like a solid year when they were NHL scouting across the board, top 3 guy. And we got him at 30. And he looks like a top 5 player. Like, they look different. There's always like the top 5, and then there's the gap between everybody else.
That's Winnipeg's MO. Grab a guy in the first round that drops.
Everybody, you know, who decided that
Perfetti supposed to go top 5.
Yeah.
Drops to 10.
Yeah.
Lambert drops. Should have probably gone top 5. Drops to 30th.
Chevy, everything falls in his day off. You know what I mean? Like, everything falls in his lap, you know? Just, here you go. Here's the beauty.
But they still do that. I would like them to stop, you know, every first rounder, the higher first rounder, when they've got one. It's always a U.S. National Development Program kid, year after year. And Nathan Smith from a few years ago didn't even sign with Winnipeg.
Yeah, that's brutal.
You know, so.
But anyways, yeah, back to Lambert. Like, I mean, that is a player people should be excited about. And the move to go to the Moose, that's nice. So he's going to be right here. Everybody can go check him out on the regular. So that's exciting, the opportunity to go watch him play. And probably play with Fanola on the power play, get to know each other a little bit better, which is good if they're going to transition up to the Jets eventually. And Harkins is now going to be there, right? And they're going to have, the Moose are going to have a good team I feel like this year. So be a good place for him to develop. He'll just be a few minutes. He'll just be a call away from, if there's an injury situation, call him up, especially in the top 6, obviously. So.
All righty. So Axel Johnson, and I'm not even sure if it's fall by, because it's FJALLBY. So I might not be pronouncing this guy's name right, but this is the guy that Winnipeg got off the waivers today while we're recording this. What did I say? 24 games with Washington last year.
Yeah, you said. Did you say in the A you put up a point a game approximately? About just shy.
Yeah, just shy in 44 games.
That's not bad.
This one on sec. Yeah, because we had 5-on-5 time on ice just over 11 minutes last year with Washington. So yeah, 23 games, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points, 34 points in 44 with Hershey of the American League. So not quite, but it's still on the better over half.
And you're saying how it works out is he has to stick with the club, or that's to put back on waivers, right?
Yeah, well, he would have to go through waivers. Washington would be allowed to even put a claim in to get him back. If you think of what happened with Eric Comrie that year, where he basically looped around and ended up back in Winnipeg, because you have to stay on the NHL roster.
Yeah, I'm not sure everybody cares that, man. So that's a good thing to point out, actually.
Yeah, so now Winnipeg has to have so they went from, I think they had 25, so now they got 26 in camp, 3 over, because this guy has to be part of the 23, or
Stanley bye, obviously because he's brutal, right? So that's one. They have to cut 2 more guys. Hanola goes down because he has options, right? So one other dude has to go, and who goes?
Then that's why I said this affects Dominic Toninato. This affects David Gustafson. This affects.
I don't want to hear anything about that, man. Gus isn't going anywhere. That's just complete shenanigans. But you're right. It's Toninato. It's Gus. It's
Menelainen.
Like, for this guy, like, no.
Well, but come on. You don't have a scouting report on this guy.
I don't have a scouting report on him, but I do the other guys well, man. Like, I'm just, how do you just come in? Okay, he just comes in, hasn't played a day, and he's bye-bye. 4 points in 20-something games is going to replace Menelainen, 6'4", 6'5", 220. Toninato has years of experience, had a great preseason, and can do the PK and all the rest for you. And you're going to boot it for this guy for Welcome to the Jungle, Axel there?
Unless we don't know about a injury that's like going to be serious, like what if Dubois hurt and he really is going on LTIR? Then that's where you're picking up a body.
Yeah.
But that's literally, and I don't know that for a fact, by the way. Don't quote me on that. He's supposed to be, I think, ready for opening night. But yeah, it was really odd, especially because like Harkins isn't even on the team and left wing center slash. Yeah, like
you need a skilled left
so
winger.
many.
You know, like a smaller 6-foot left winger. We don't need that.
Yeah.
That was on nobody's radar. Who saw that coming? Who needs that? What do we need that for?
I don't know.
Something's up, man. Something.
You take the wheels off, you better look into the axles, eh?
Nice. Like butter.
Thanks to Warren Smith for this special throwback Winnipeg Jet First Class podcast. Some housekeeping. Left-hand defense Ville Heinola was sent down after we recorded as a waiver-exempt player. He won't have to clear waivers. Forward Alex Johnson fell by, picked up off waivers, does require a visa to join the Jets, so his time frame for joining the team is indefinite. That kept all the forwards we talked about in the podcast up with the big club. And another clarification, left-hand defenseman Dylan Sandberg is also waiver exempt, not just Heinola. Likewise, forward Saku Menelainen is as well. Menelainen and Sandberg have made the roster.